Are you coming to the meeting in person or are you staying upstairs? Paul's not hearing us.
I think he may have been in a meeting upstairs. So, Marcus? You do what you want. I said, I'm not your boss.
Paul, are you there? Hmm. Okay. Do you have so we- I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Town Council, Town Services and Outreach Committee on December 12, and it's just after 4:45. And we do have a quorum of that committee present, and there are several items that we want to address promptly, so that at 5 o'clock we can then add the Transportation Advisory Committee and the Disability Access Advisory Committee to the meeting, so that the first part of the meeting is to get any public comment and to then also handle town manager appointments to committees, which is a responsibility of the Town Services and Outreach Committee. This meeting is being held electronically by, it's actually a hybrid meeting, so that there's some members present here in the town room at Town Hall, and there are some meetings who are connected, some members of committees who are connected by electronic means, Zoom or telephone, and the public is able to participate either by coming into the room here at Town Hall or participating by Zoom or by telephone. So with that said, I would like to just make sure that the members of the council committee can hear me and be heard, and then we'll proceed for a couple of agenda items that need to be addressed before 5 o'clock. So George Ryan.
Present.
And Bob Hegner.
Present.
And Jennifer Taub.
Present.
I think we have one member from our committee that is not present at the moment. And that's Al Lord. So that said, is there any member, there are a couple members of the public who are here. Does anybody wish to make any public comment? If you do want to make public comment, and I see that there are two people on the attendee list who are attending electronically. If you'd like to make public comment, please raise your hand. This is the only time. And Yeah, I see that there's a phone number, and the person who's on the telephone, if they wish to make public comment, should say, raise *6, I believe, on your telephone, and that would indicate that would raise your hand. *9, I'm sorry. *6 is muting. *9. I've had no requests, so I'm going to turn the meeting over to our town manager, who's not in the room with us, but he has 4 sets of committee appointments to present to the TSO committee.
Thank you, Andy. So the first one is for the Board of Assessors, and the appointment is Ileana Carrion. Ms. Carrion is a lifelong resident of the town and has been involved with local government in many different ways. She has a master's degree in public management from Johns Hopkins and additional other degrees as well. She is currently works for the State Department of Public Health and has working with a lot of different communities locally. So she has expressed interest in serving on the Board of Assessors, and that's a committee that we're often recruiting for. And so I recommend her appointment to you.
Are there any members of the committee with questions? Seeing no requests for questions, I just have one. I'm going to ask just once for all of the committees that you're presenting that I'm making the assumption, and the committee is making an assumption, unless you indicate otherwise, that all are registered voters in Amherst.
They have to be residents of Amherst.
Oh, that's correct.
Yep. And they all are.
And you've checked on that. Okay. Thank you. So George?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, proceed.
I move that we recommend the town council approve the town manager's appointment of Ileana Carrion for a term to expire June 30, 2028 to the Board of Assessors.
I'll second.
So this motion been made and seconded. It was made by George, seconded by Bob Hegner. And we'll proceed to a vote. And Councilor Ryan?
Aye.
Bob Hegner?
Aye.
Jennifer Taub?
Yes.
And I'm an aye.
Thank you.
So it's 4-0 with 1 member absent.
Thank you. The next committee is a Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee, and there are 2 appointees. Olivia Keller is a student at Amherst College, and she's pursuing a bachelor's degree in political science and environmental studies. She's been involved in numerous activities and the chair of the CDBG. So she's also volunteered or interned with the town of Hadley's Climate Action Committee. The chair of the CDBG Advisory Committee was excited to have a student's perspective on her committee as they go through their process this year. The other person is Andrew Hart. He is a creative director, filmmaker, graphic designer, lots of different things. He has children at the Fort River School, I think, and at the middle school, and has shown interest in serving on committees. And this is the one that he was interested in serving on. He actually showed up at the planning board or the design review discussion on Monday night. So clearly someone that is taking an interest in the town. So is really eager to be able to appoint him to the CDBG Advisory Committee.
Okay, are there any other members of the committee have questions that I would like to ask? I'll note that the reason I asked the question for all committees about residents is that you'd indicated that Ms. Keller had previous service on a Hadley committee, but it's a question of residents now that is qualification. So Councilor Ryan, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do. I'm prepared to move that we recommend that the town council approve the town manager's appointment of Olivia Keller to a term to expire June 30, 2026, a 2-year term, and to approve the appointment of Andrew Hart for a term to expire June 30, 2027, to the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, well, I heard Bob first. But
That's fine. I can-
we'll see, let you vote first, Jennifer. So we're voting Jennifer.
Unmute. Yes.
Okay, Counselor Ryan,
Aye.
Bob Hegner,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So it's again 4-0 with one member absent.
Thank you. Just a note, Andy, Ms. Keller is actually a resident of Amherst, but interned for the town of Hadley, but wasn't a member of the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the next one is for the Council on Aging. Yvette Pallison is a regular user of the senior center. She also teaches for many years a rhythm and blues funk movement dance class. She lives in one of the apartments near the center and has been involved in food distribution at the Bangs and at the Survival Center. And she has been involved with the Council on Aging previously, has now talked with the chair and is interested in re-engaging as a member of the council.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Counselor Ryan, do you have a question or are you going to?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Seeing no one from the committee asking to ask questions, go ahead.
I move that we recommend that the town council approve the appointment of Yvette Pallison to a 3-year term to expire June 30, 2027, to the Council on Aging.
Is there a second?
I'm having connectivity problems. I'll second.
Okay, this motion's been made and seconded, but seconded this time by Jennifer Taub. And I guess we'll proceed to a vote. Counselor Ryan,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm getting freezing on the screen, but can you hear me?
yes.
Okay.
We did hear you. Bob Hegner,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So again, 4-0 with one member absent. I
Thank
think you have one more.
Yes, thank you, Andy. The next is the Public Art Commission, and this is a commission that we often get very talented people for, and we do again. So, excuse me. The first appointment is Charlene Choi. Ms. Choi has been involved with cultural arts programming throughout the Valley and in other places in the country as well. She has worked in numerous organizations, academic departments, local businesses, in different capacities, and in the colleges as well. She's expressed a lot of interest in coordinating more public arts programming, especially the sharing about writers and things like that. The second person is Lynn Thompson. Ms. Thompson had worked at the university for many years. She was trained as a visual artist and graphic designer. She was served as a member of and chair of the university's Arts Council. So she brings many years of experience of dealing with proposals and coming up with ideas for public art. So I think they'll both be strong additions to the Public Art Commission.
Any members of the committee have a question? Seeing no questions, Counselor Ryan.
I'm prepared to make a motion, but before I do that, just a very brief statement, which I sometimes make when we do this process, expressing our appreciation to Paul, to his staff, to the Resident Advisory Board, and to the chairs of these various committees. We have a large number of commissions and boards and bodies, and they're important to the work of our government. And this takes an enormous amount of time and effort on the part of our staff. They do a great job. A lot of our job is simply to assure that the process is followed and that it is. And so again, I want to just express my appreciation for Paul's work and the work of all the people that support him. I'm prepared to make a motion that we recommend to the town council that they approve the appointment of Charlene Choi for a term of 3 years to expire June 30, 2027, and to appoint Lynn Thompson to a term of 2 years which will expire in June 30, 2026, to the Public Art Commission.
I'll second Hagner.
So the motion has been made and seconded. I think we can proceed to a vote. And I'll start with Councilor Ryan
Aye.
and Jennifer Taub
Yes,
and Bob Hegner.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that it is 4-0 with one member absent. And that concludes the business that is exclusive to the Town Services and Outreach Committee. And I appreciate everybody from the committee working to get that done by 5 o'clock, because that's the time we posted for the meeting that was joint with the other committees that have been advising and reviewing the proposal. And I think, well, a couple of members of the committee are getting seated and settled. What we'll do is I just want to do an introductory statement about the purpose of today's meeting, how this came about, and thank everybody who is here in the room for being here in the room, and those who can't, appreciate participation in any way possible. We were presented with a complex proposal that was to the council from the town manager and the superintendent of public works for addressing what are anticipated as challenges to the traffic near the new elementary school on Southeast Street when it opens. And each of the committees has spent a little bit of time working on this. We had a request from the town manager and the superintendent to have a combined meeting to let them make a presentation and respond to questions about the proposal. And that was the purpose of having this meeting. And the superintendent of public works felt that it would work better to the greatest extent possible if we could have the meeting be held in person. The intent of today's meeting is that frequently the Public Works Department attends and our meetings of committees and makes detailed presentations. And we wanted to do that as a combined in-person meeting and with the ability to participate remotely when it was necessary. And that is what we are doing today. This is not the time where we're going to have extensive discussion about this or make a decision. Decisions are going to be made much farther into the future. The council committee has concluded that we really need to have a robust public engagement at some point about this process before any decision is made. And so on December 19th, we're going to actually be meeting with the town's communications director about the proposal as it is now or may be modified, and to then try and do a community outreach to make sure that the community is more widely aware of this proposal and that there be some kind of community engagement process all to occur before we proceed and to making any final decisions. So this is not a short process, and there is no decision to be made tonight. This is really a learning opportunity. So with that, I think I need to allow the chairs of the other two bodies that are present to call their committees to order for anybody who's present, either in person or who you see on the screen as being in the electronic audience by Zoom. So with that said, I guess, Myra? You have to hold the button in the center. Let me,
There, it's
Oh.
not tactile, is it? But you
No,
have
it's
it
not.
right now.
Okay. And it's an inaccessible button. Okay. All right. So I'm calling well, we are currently still the Disability Access Advisory Committee to order. I do not know which members are here. So if you are a member of the Disability Access Advisory Committee, please announce yourself and say present.
Aaron, present.
Cody Rooney, present.
Great, okay. Okay. All right, so Jim Kerdner is here, Elise Link is here, Cody Rooney is here, Saren Darren is here, I am here, and I don't know about Ian. Is Ian here? I think he intended to be, so he will maybe on Zoom at some point.
see, Saren is on Zoom. Got her. So, and who's chairing Transportation Advisory Committee at this point?
Hi, I'm Tracy Zafian, and I'm chairing the Transportation Advisory Committee. We have 4 members present in the room.
Ooh, Kim Tremblay.
Christine Lindstrom.
Marcus Smith.
Let's. And you have Cody. I think you have at least one member. Wait a minute. Yeah,
We don't have any members on Zoom, TAC.
okay. So with that said, I think that it's time for me to turn the meeting over. Trying to look to see if town manager is with us. Do you know if he's coming downstairs or?
I'm here now, Andy, still here.
Okay, so why don't I turn it over to you and then let you start the presentation from
Sure.
staff, and we have Guilford who's here in the room. And as I said, we wanted to begin with the sort of an explanation of how you came to the recommendation that you have made to us that we're considering tonight, what alternatives you considered, and then any responses you want to start with to some of the issues that were raised by the committees in advance. So I'll turn
thank
it to you.
Thank you, Andy. So I know the time is short because we have to vacate the room by what, 6:30?
Correct.
So it just turns straight over to Guilford and he can make the presentation.
Good evening. I hopefully my cold doesn't get too bad. So I'm here tonight. I'm also joined by Melody Butler and Matthew Robillard from CDM Smith, who actually worked on this project. They're going to be able to answer some of the more detailed questions about analysis and how we came up with some of the discussion items. I will start off by saying that when we first started this project, our recommendation was don't build a school here. Then we were told, no, we're building the school here. So then our next recommendation was, well, let's move the driveway into the middle and buy one of these houses. And we were told, no, we're not doing that. So then we were told we're just going to keep it the way it is. And then this is how we came up, or how one of our constraints we had was kind of keeping it the same way it is now. As we've worked in the last, since I've been here over 20 years, working in the East Street Common has been taboo. We have been told not to take any of the green space from the common. So that's one of the other restrictions we had, was not to take any green space. If that's decided that we want to change, that's fine. But what we did with this plan was we came up with the best plan we could to restrict the amount of green space we're taking from the common, and also to accommodate the traffic movements as best we could. I'm going to turn it over to Melody now, and she can talk about how the process they went through.
All right, thanks, Guilford. Yes, so we were contracted to take a look at a prior study that had been done for the traffic analysis that combined the two schools. So we came in and we were tasked with defining any other mitigation, offsite mitigation that we could, given the traffic that the other study had collected and the analysis that they had done. So we came into this because that study had been done. They wanted some more recommendations, but also what happened in the meantime was that the school circulation plan had changed. So if you're aware of what it is now, let's see, I'm pulling it up. So I have my map. Sorry, currently the buses and parents go to the southern driveway, and they circulate through the school and then they exit at the northern driveway. Well, the change in that school circulation is now that buses only use the southern driveway, and they'll come in and circulate towards the southern end of the campus, the new campus. And then parents and faculty will use the northern entrance. So this is kind of a constraint that we were working with, because from that original traffic study that was done, we knew that the Main Street intersection, the northbound traffic, is going to get bogged down a little bit. There's going to need to be some improvements made there, first and foremost, to add storage for traffic queuing up at the intersection. George, did you have a question that I needed to answer now?
I just wondered if we could get an image up on the screen. Is there possible, just so people can see something? Because your description is excellent, but is that possible?
I can share my screen.
That would
Hopefully
be
that
great.
works. Can you see my study map?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is the new circulation plan.
Melody,
is-
could you zoom in a little bit more, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
So this is Main Street up here. This is the northern driveway access point up here, where faculty and parents will use. This is the southern driveway, where buses will use and circulate down here. And then this is College Street. So what we knew going in was that traffic is backing up in this left turn lane. So we were tasked with, okay, well, how in the world do you allow traffic to enter and exit out of this northern driveway knowing that this is already backing up past where the driveway is. And we know that,
Pardon me, point of order. Melody, could you be more descriptive in your explanation of where things are?
oh, sorry for the record.
Thank you.
So the northern left turn lane at Main Street is backing up further than the north entrance of the school. And when you eventually add in traffic to enter from the north into the school, so that would be a left turn from the north going into the school, and you have drivers exiting the school, the north driveway of the school, turning left and right. It's just a lot of conflict zone at this northern driveway. And you're very close to the Main Street intersection, which we know is already going to be backing up because of northbound traffic. So this is a huge constraint right here at the northern driveway. So in the study, I don't know if you've all read the study, but some of the initial constraints we were dealing with that helped us move towards analyzing roundabouts was that that northern driveway at the school, the prevalence of those conflicting left turn movements will cause operational problems during school pickup and drop off periods. Left turn restrictions were something that we talked about early on. So not allowing those drivers from the north turning left into the school. But how do you restrict that? You have to have some sort of physical barrier to be able to restrict that. That would be the only way really that operationally this driveway could work. So that's how we kind of started the process of talking about the roundabout there. Also, we ran some level of service analysis, which is typical traffic analysis that we do using volumes and understanding conflicting movements. And we realized, okay, a stop controlled intersection at the northern driveway is just, it's not going to work. It's just going to get too bogged down, and it's going to impact the East Street. And then one other thing we also knew is that the College Street intersection, as a signalized intersection, as it currently exists today, will need to be expanded to work efficiently. So that's kind of how we came up with, okay, well, how in the world do you work with a signalized intersection in the north at Main Street that is going to be operating poorly because of backups in the northern direction? Also knowing that the signalized intersection to the south at College Street is going to be operating poorly because this intersection cannot handle the amount of traffic coming through it. And knowing that this northern driveway where everyone is going to be entering and exiting the school, almost everyone, I know buses are in the southern driveway, but this is going to get bogged down as well. So you have 3 intersections in a row that we know are just not going to be able to operate efficiently as they are as signalized and unsignalized intersections. So that's how we came up with the roundabout analyses. One other thing I should point out is you can't really have a signalized intersection so close to a roundabout, because once, if that signalized intersection gets bogged down, the queues can back up into the roundabout, rendering the roundabout useless. So that's why we proposed this series of roundabouts, so that if there is a delay, it's not completely bogging down the adjacent roundabouts. And with the roundabouts opposed to the signals, there's less chance of delay. So that's the quick and dirty of how we came up with looking at roundabouts. Jennifer, did you have a question?
Actually, George's hand, Councilor Ryan's hand went up first.
I don't think he ever put it down.
Oh, is that true? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
Jennifer, please go ahead. Yeah.
So I may be jumping ahead with questions. This wasn't my idea. I think maybe Bob Hegner initially suggested it, but if we were to have southeastern Route 9 and Main Street, they call it, in south, what would that do? So then traffic would be all flowing on Southeast Street in one direction.
So, and I'm going to use my cursor here. Can you see it? So you're saying southbound
Yes.
on Old South Street, or I'm not sure exactly what you
Could you
call it,
make it a
but
little bigger, please?
Yeah, it's Old Southeast Street.
Old Southeast Street southbound.
And that would be
Um,
southbound, and the current Southeast Street would be northbound. From the
so one-way
second,
pair.
yeah, there'd be, obviously would have to be two-way south of the intersection of the
Mhm.
the south entrance.
So the issue there is that we're not allowing southern bound traffic on the existing Southeast Street. So what do you do with the left
Between Main and,
turns?
yeah, Route 9.
What do you do with the left turns that are currently going from Main Street down Southeast
They
Street?
would have
You
to go to Old Southeast Street.
Right. But this will bog down this intersection as well. So you're gonna then move your conflicting movements to this other intersection at Southeast Street and Main Street. And not only that, you're gonna have everyone who's going south on Northeast Street going through, then they have to make a right turn and then a left turn. So it bogs down traffic there too. It's not an easy solution to just say, hey, just make this one way. So we did think about that. That was an option that we considered.
You also take the traffic that's on Main Street, and they either have to have two conflicting points, or you have to send them down Old Southeast Street too, and then back up. So you're actually putting more traffic through the intersections than you really need to. If you keep them kind of separated, you can have the intersections function a little on their own, and you're not adding traffic from one to the next one and compounding your traffic flows. That was one of the reasons we looked at it as well.
So I wanted to just point out one more stipulation that we had when we started this. Our assumption was that this is the school circulation plan. These are the driveway access points. But yeah. So that's important because, one of the main issues here is that this northern driveway is so close to the Main Street intersection. So, Marcus, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Ooh. It's gonna work. Sorry. Yeah, just a quick question. Have you considered turning the whole of that, kind of getting back to the original one, turning the green space into a roundabout and moving the intersection of Northeast Street into the green space that's east on Main Street? So
East.
separating there, moving that intersection, a good way to the right, and then having the whole of the common basically as one big roundabout, or having the Main Street intersection there be like a lozenge roundabout. Yeah.
A what?
A lozenge roundabout. So it's like, yeah, sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah. But
Elongated.
something to, yeah.
Was Guilford gonna say something?
Sort of like a kidney bean shape, and you can take the school entrance. Oops, sorry. You can take the school entrance exit for parents and possibly combine it with Main Street, Northeast Street, and make that, but you'd end up taking a section of the common, the Southeast Street common to do that. But that could possibly be turned, instead of being two separate roundabouts, might be able to be one roundabout that end. And then you'd have the other two at the other end. It's called a peanut. It's kind of a new thing, although It's kind of a new thing. There is one in Worcester if you want to drive through it and check it out. Right downtown in Worcester, there's a really nice one. But we haven't gone any farther with that discussion yet. And then again, we haven't looked at doing the whole common because it takes so much traffic and makes a bigger traffic ball at the other intersections. Ball of cars at the south end. And then you're also taking all those people up to the north end again. So they're making more movements. Every movement's a conflict. Every conflict is what you're trying to avoid.
That's all right.
Where is the, I try and get in and out of that entrance where the school was originally, that exit, I guess that's an exit now, which is already a problem. Is that where the original exit is already, where the existing exit? It's not moving that. Okay.
No, the northern exit, as Melody was talking about, that's going to be the entrance and exit for parents and non-staff vehicles. And then the southern entrance now becomes the entrance and exit for the school vehicles, which one of the things was trying to reduce the conflict in the school area between the two. If you've the crossing of vehicles for dropping off and so forth. So now the drop off for buses is totally isolated. The students don't have to cross parents dropping other kids off. The students get off their buses, they walk into the school. The students who are being dropped off by their parents, they're dropped off in front of the school, on the sidewalk, they walk to the school. No vehicle and student crossing movements are in this. And that was one of the stipulations for separating the two driveways.
Yeah.
So people say we didn't really think about pedestrians. The driveway situation was completely situated around dropping off and pedestrians for the students on the school properties proper.
I guess my point is just that any person who has tried to come out that exit at, rush hour 5 or whatever already knows how hard it is to do that. And now we have 2x the students, and that will be an entrance and an exit. Yeah.
Andy, Rupert Roy Clark is here from the schools. If you'd like to, there were questions for the schools as well.
Okay,
I did have another question for Guilford. You had mentioned that if they're like seriously pursuing the idea of combining the two northern rotaries, or I'm sorry, roundabout and rotary, would that conversation hasn't started yet. What does that look like, or what would it take for that to become a seriously considered option?
That would require some more study by CDM to lay it out, do some modeling, right, Melody?
Yes.
yes.
Is this working? Yeah. This is far more complex than I thought. And when I came in here, it was so complex, I didn't know what to do with it. I'm completely perplexed and can't overestimate the level of my concern that in the materials you gave us and up until about 30 seconds ago, there was no mention of pedestrians. There was no mention of cyclists. There was no mention of people with disabilities who cannot cross roundabouts safely, period. Cannot. If the cars do not ever stop, you cannot ever cross a roundabout safely. There have to be some controls of the traffic. I understand the gravity of what you've been trying to do, and I commend you for coming up with a some kind of a Band-Aid for a gaping wound, but this is a huge, huge problem, and it seems like perhaps there needs to be changes internal to the site that will mitigate some of the concerns with the traffic, which I do understand, but there are going to be people walking to school. There are going to be people leaving after the crosswalk, the crossing guard goes. Kids who stay to play baseball or who stay to run on the track will have to walk home, and they have to cross these roundabouts at 10 years old with no traffic controls. This is a preposterous problem, and no little questions are going to solve it. So are there any things that you can do inside the site, or you can't do it, but the building committee, I'm sorry, I guess, was very short-sighted. And I wonder if there are any changes that can be made inside that will help with what goes on outside, because this is an untenable situation, and you have to, the thing that was thought about from the beginning was traffic flow instead of people. And people are driving cars, but there are a lot of people who live around there who walk. And there are a lot of people who want to ride bikes. And they are not in this plan at all.
Do you want to respond, or
Just,
Rupert?
well, just a quick response to that. So the biggest thing we looked at was buses. That was the one thing that we spent a great deal of time trying to accommodate. And yes, until we decide where the buses go and how we get cars in and out safely, then we really can't lay out where pedestrians go. There's more room to move the pedestrians around or to make additional changes for pedestrians. But the buses and where the buses are going to be are probably one of the bigger issues for how to get them in and out of the school and moving easily. This is also a PBTA transit route. You still have to accommodate that bus as well. So
Please, not with a floating bus stop, because those are treacherous. So I hope you don't even have one of those in mind. But if there is no traffic control built into this from the beginning, no electronic controls, there are going to be people who cannot cross this. You cannot cross, just like you can't cross the one in town. And you've heard that enough, maybe, but it hasn't been fixed. The people who need to cross, who need electronic controls, don't have any safe way to either get through this intersection in any direction.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any response. Certainly when we collected questions, the safety for bicycles and pedestrians was a paramount issue of discussion. And I don't know if Rupert can respond to anything, but the number of crossing guards, I don't know if there's been any estimate as to if once you create this kind of a process, whether it's even possible to use crossing guards to assist, and whether that's financially feasible operationally.
Right now, we have one individual doing crossing guard duty up by the Main Street, Northeast South Street intersection. It often requires a little bit of overtime, so it's not free, but it's probably less expensive than, pedestrian tunnels and bridges and that kind of stuff. But I don't really know enough about transportation to advise on how to best assist bicyclists and walkers in these kind of situations. I don't have answers for you, I'm afraid.
And I guess the other question that was sort of raised earlier, just to make sure we get this, I assume that we're at a point with the architect and the construction and the whole process, the school building committee and its work, that the entrance exit is set.
Yeah, that's true. All the designs have happened and gone out to bid, and changing them is not simply drawing some lines on a piece of paper, because all of the drainage systems for the site are incorporated into the plan. And so we would have to redo all the drainage as well as the travel.
Okay,
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's the old joke about a camel is a horse designed by a committee. And when I think about the Rotary at East Pleasant and Triangle, that really seems like the camel solution, because you've got a standard Rotary, and then we tried to put accessibility for persons with disabilities, whether mobility impairments or visual impairments, on after that. And I think all I'm saying really is that there needs to be a lot of thinking about how this is actually going to work, and different locations for these rotaries present different kinds of problems. The one at Belchertown Road, there's a fair amount of pedestrian traffic there already. The people who live in Colonial Village and the new apartment building, as well as 20 Belchertown Road, which ServiceNet recently bought. There's going to be more people there. And for the most part, a lot of them don't have cars, so this is how they get around. And so these are real challenges, and I would hate to come up with something that, okay, it works for the buses. I get it, that's important, and I get the incredible amount of work that's already gone into this. But if it doesn't work for people, we've got real problems and perhaps injuries. That's a real issue.
Tracy?
I'd also like to get a word, if possible, please. I guess you don't see my raised hand.
I was just gonna I had a question related to the crossing guards. So, I mean, I do know that each of the elementary schools do have crossing guards at the main crossings that students are using for, getting to school.
Can
But
you
my
speak up, Tracy? Can't hear you.
Okay. But I had a question just about the crossing guards, but I was curious about how long. I mean, one thing is that the people who do the crossing guard duty also have other responsibilities at the school. I mean, as you mentioned, there's like overtime involved, so their custodial staff or other people who are doing those responsibilities. And how long are crossing guards there? I mean, I guess to me, it always seems like a pretty narrow window that the crossing guards are present. For example, they're not there for kids who are there for after school and so on. And so, I mean, I think there is some concern, like echoing what Myra said, just about for people who are crossing outside of those times, what are the safest options? I mean, overall, I believe that roundabouts do improve safety in terms of that there are very few fatalities at roundabouts and things. But I do see that there could be challenges, particularly when you're looking at commuter traffic, convincing cars to get to and from, that they're to yield and stop, and long enough to let younger students, particularly in elementary school, to get younger students cross. So.
Okay. Sarah, I know you had been trying to.
Yes. I have been using that Southeast Street and Route 9 intersection for over 40 years. And I see no problem with the traffic flow. And also there's lots of pedestrian signals, and I see it being used. So first of all, I couldn't understand the necessity of putting a roundabout at that Southeast Street intersection. And also the town is looking for additional money, and they're short of money, and we always read in the papers. And is there any need to spend some unnecessary money? to do something that is working well already. The other thing is, in our last DAAC meeting a few days ago, we reviewed a plan that was put up by Dr. Patterson. And I don't know if anyone saw it or not. And so I personally, and Martha Henner, who is my neighbor, and she also sent messages to TSO, I believe. And we thought that would work, with the exception of the Southeast Street roundabout at the intersection I'm talking about, Route 9 and Southeast Street. And in that plan, there was lots of thought put for bicyclists, including buffer lanes and also ADA compliant walkways, curb cuts and everything. But we had raised some issues regarding the effect of these bicycle paths to people with visual impairments. So we'd like the town to be open to other plans, which also prioritize the pedestrians and the children and the bicyclists. All we try to do is increase the bicycle riders, and then we cannot throw them in danger. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for listening.
Okay. I'm going to try and mix it a little bit by the different committees present, get a few more comments, and then I'm going to ask Guilford to sort of kind of react to them, if I may. Is that you? So, Councilor Ryan, did you have something? Your hand's been up a while.
I think it's been answered, but I just would like clarity. Sort of my layman's approach to this is it'd be nice to at least reduce the number of pinch points, or what do you want to call them, points, and we now have 4, and it'd be nice to reduce them at least to 3. And there's one suggestion out there, it sounds like it would take time and money, but I guess it's called a peanut roundabout or whatever, but that might be one way, and might address some of the traffic flow concerns. For the moment, I'm just focusing on that. I think the issues raised about pedestrians, cyclists, these are all important. But right now, I just like to focus on the sort of big picture issue of what's in front of us. And so I'd like to, if it's possible, somehow to reduce at least to 3 from 4. And what I guess I've just heard is that one thought would be to have a single entrance and exit in the center of the site. But that's really not at this point at all feasible. I mean, maybe it's not feasible for other reasons as well, but given the work that's been already done and the drainage and so on, if you took land purchase, if you acquired land in the middle of Southeast Street and had a single entrance and exit, that would reduce it to 3, but that is just off the table. I should just even stop thinking about that. It's a question, and maybe there's no answer, but that's my question.
I was told it's off the table.
Would it actually have some benefit from the point of view of just the flow of traffic and so on? Would it have any positives, or is it just, assuming for the sake of argument that it could possibly be done, because the peanut suggestion suggests at least that could be done and might provide some benefits. Would this also provide some benefits if it possibly could be done, or?
If you didn't have the constraints of where the traffic flows now and that the site design is done, there would be some benefit to looking at it. But since the site design is done,
right,
and all that's developed, there's no real benefit. You're going to be spending even more money to rearrange things.
It would involve a purchase of private property. So it would be.
That would actually be the easiest part.
Yes.
Let me go rotate for committees for a few more comments and then see where we can come to. Chris Lindstrom, so we can get to TAC.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear about the question or what are the best practices for overlaying pedestrian and cyclist and people with disabilities safety measures onto a rotary or a roundabout. And I'd love to hear from CDM Smith and then also from Rupert and Guilford in terms of what those are, what are some of the considerations around those practices. I feel a little stymied just looking at, a map with 3 huge circles in it and not a lot of attention paid to the cyclists and walkers and other kind of street folks on the street without some kind of grounding in those ideas or those approaches that are already out there in the,
And I'll start. So first of all, everything that was presented in the traffic study is a very high level concept plan, just to lay out the ideas and see geometrically, would these even be feasible? So sidewalks and bike lanes and all of that weren't necessarily put into these concept plans because they're not ready for design, and it's a piecemeal type of project. So that's the first thing. So it's not like we don't intend to add sidewalks in the final design. They just weren't included on that drawing. To your point about safety measures at roundabouts. So first of all, roundabouts, you have to slow down to traverse them. So that's a safety benefit. Also, if you design them.
I'm sorry, Melody, do you mean the motorist slows down, or do you mean
Yes.
that everybody's
Vehicles.
slowing down?
Vehicles
the
have to
walkers and the pedestrian. Okay.
Vehicles must slow down to traverse the roundabout because they are not going in a straight line. So if you you design your angle to which you have to enter into the roundabout, you'll have to slow down even further. Then the best practices for pedestrian accommodations are to put your crosswalk kind of in the straight section so that the driver is, still looking straight ahead as the pedestrian is crossing the crosswalk. They're not already in that approach angle and looking to the left, so they can actually, because if you do that, they're not looking straight ahead at where a pedestrian may be crossing in front of them. So putting that crosswalk in that section before the throat opens up to traverse the roundabout. For bicyclists, you can also provide a ramp that they can either go onto the sidewalk if they want to, or they could still follow within the roundabout like a vehicle would. So if you're riding on the road and you feel comfortable on the road, you can still do that, but you can also have a ramp that goes up to a sidewalk or a multi-use path and get out of the roadway. There are options for also doing RRFBs, which are rectangular rapid flashing beacons at the crosswalk for the roundabout. So that would get the driver's attention even further. But those are some of the safety benefits of the roundabouts. So the reduction in speed, putting the crosswalk in a proper location. Also, you can utilize the splitter island at the roundabout, which would add a little pedestrian refuge area. So they, maybe if they can't cross both lanes at the same time, they can wait in the splitter island area protected by a raised curb so that then they can cross the next leg. But I will turn to Matthew, who has a little more experience with design, or Guilford, if they have anything to offer as well.
I don't have anything to add, Melody. You covered the basic pedestrian improvements for pedestrian safety improvements that are recognized by FHWA and other transit organizations for pedestrian safety with roundabouts.
Can you say that again, please?
I was just saying that Melody covered the basics of pedestrian safety improvements through roundabouts that are recognized by FHWA and other transportation organizations nationwide.
I guess
Does that include disability organizations?
The
I
references
think-
I'm speaking to
think
do not
not.
include disability organizations, no.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other concern that we just want to put out, then I want to get back to other people in the committee, but this is an area where we're concerned about school children, and it's a so I was curious whether the standards that you were discussing are specific to kind of the unique situation of the proximity to an elementary school. And the other thing that I want to get back to just for a second is Rupert commented they used one crossing guard at the intersection of Main Street and Southeast Street. Right now, you have a signalized intersection with a pedestrian light that makes it so that people can cross in any directions. So that I've observed it actually. So one crossing guard can attend to children who are coming from any direction, needing to go towards the school. When we're at a traffic circle, there are multiple crossing points, and I'm not sure that I can envision how one person could do that. So if there's no comment, I know that Jennifer Tabbs had her hand up for a while.
Andy, there's a question over here too.
Do I hold it when I turn it on? Okay. Okay, there are a couple of things, about I'm very concerned about the plan of bicyclists being able to go up on the sidewalk. That is a real safety issue for pedestrians, especially pedestrians with disabilities who can't hear or see a bike or get out of the way of a bicyclist. I also am concerned about roundabouts where you say the traffic can slow down, but it never stops. So if somebody like myself who's low vision or a blind person or a person on a walker or whatever, if the traffic never stops, then there's really no safe way to get across because you can't, as a blind person, I can't hear, I hear traffic slowing down, but if I don't hear them stopping, I'm not going to cross. So just to put that out there.
Okay, Jennifer?
Thank you. Yeah, Andy, you actually got to a couple of my questions. Yes, one of them was with the roundabout. So you're on Southeast Street and you're heading north, but you're south of the large roundabout at Main and Southeast. Can you cross? I don't know if you call that interior. So could you cross from one end of Southeast Street, I guess, through the common to the other, or you'd have to go to the corner and kind of do a cross three ways? Does that make sense? I'm not articulating that well. But if you wanted to get to the school, to Main Street, just south of the intersection of Main and Southeast Street, and you want to be on the south side of the street, how would you do that?
Wilfred?
So, so right now, you're as a
Making any
pedestrian,
sense?
correct?
As a pedestrian, yes.
So right now, as a pedestrian, you can't do that. So if we wanted to add that in, if you're coming down Main Street and you want to walk to the entrance to the school, we could put in a sidewalk on the north end of the common. There's not one there now. We could bring it around and then bring it to the roundabout in front of the entrance exit for vehicles, and then they could cross there.
Okay, so you're not going to have anybody trying to cross just south of the northern roundabout. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. That wouldn't happen.
Across the common?
Yeah.
There has been discussion that since the the old East Street School is going to be redeveloped, and it's envisioned that it'll be families and mixed use, not just 55 and over or college students.
Right.
That there might be a need to have a crosswalk that comes across. But if we do a crosswalk across the common, we'd need to install a sidewalk on the west side of Southeast Street, because there's no sidewalk there now. I mean, those are all things that are doable, and we can put them into the mix. It would make sense to do that, because then if you're just trying to accommodate that one development, you could cross the common, then you go either north or south to one of the driveway entrances and cross at those roundabouts into the school.
And, okay, so, and also with the crossing guards, that's only at certain times of the day. It's also not in terms of for people with disabilities having to navigate those intersections, weekends, evenings, most of the time. They would be on their own. So that's also a concern. In terms of that peanut, would that do away with the smaller roundabout at the exit to the school to the north?
That would be the goal.
Okay.
Andy,
Thank
Can
you.
you define
and my
what
last,
you're asking? What's the peanut?
A peanut is a modified roundabout that's it's not round, it's kind of in a peanut shape. It looks like a kidney bean sort of. You have, actually, it's the Atkins roundabout squished together. The two roundabouts and the Atkins, if you squish those together, that's a peanut, basically. So it's oblong. Thank you, Melody.
I just Googled this image of a peanut. But yeah.
okay, so it makes the two roundabouts one.
It makes them one, yes.
Okay. My last question is, are there other schools in Massachusetts that have similar, have roundabouts that this kind of, or a similar configuration adjacent to an elementary school? And that's my last question. Thank you.
I do not know of any. Melody, do you?
I don't know of any.
So I don't think
I would be interested to know that. Maybe
well,
I'm sorry.
There were no roundabouts in the state of Massachusetts until we
Right, see you.
What?
Yeah, Myra?
maybe others.
I have a question. If you are walking on the north side of Main Street toward the east, so you're like in front of the Jewish community building there, and you want to walk over to the school, how many crossings would you have to do? How many flashing beacons would there have to be? And how would you do it? I mean, if you're a kid that is in that neighborhood, there are lots of kids there. Salem Place, Spalding Street, Salem Street, North Whitney Street. A lot of those kids would be walkers. South Whitney Street. So can you define, like, what is somebody doing if they're walking on the north side? Forget the South Whitney Street. If you're walking on the north side of Main Street toward the east, what is it like for you to get there to the school?
So right now,
we need a map?
if you want to make that movement right now, you have to go you're on the north side, you come to the intersection of Southeast Street, you cross Southeast Street to the sidewalk, and then you cross Main Street again back on there actually is no sidewalk. That's a weird image. It's not. There's a sidewalk on that side.
There's a crosswalk
Melody, go
on
left.
Main before you get to Southeast, but it's not flashing. It's not a beacon.
Yes. So you would have to come down to the intersection, cross over Main Street, and then cross Southeast Street, which is the same thing you do now.
No matter what, it sounds like there's two crossings.
There's two crossings.
There are now, and there's going to be.
Stay the same.
This is going to be required.
There has to be two crossings. There wouldn't be three to get over the peanut?
No,
Not unless you made, sidewalk to walk on.
if we do the peanut, we don't actually know how that would work, but at the roundabout, you would have to cross two, the same as you do now. You have to cross Main Street and then you have to cross Southeast Street.
So, what do you think the pros and cons are of doing nothing, except potentially just improving the north and south intersections as they currently are? Potentially also restricting, turns out into and out of the school.
So you're saying do not change the intersections at Main and South Street?
Yes, what are the pros and cons of that? But potentially, I understand the backing up of traffic thing and where that gets really complicated at the entrance exits of the school are, if you're wanting to cross traffic. So I imagine restricting that, which does happen in places in town.
And you're saying do not make a left turn out of the school?
Yes, correct. Nor cross over, you have to be crossing over traffic to get into the school either. Just you have to make a right turn into the school, no left turns.
No lefts in,
to
no
or
lefts
out
out.
of the school.
So if you do that, there's no easy way to make the turnaround to come back. So if you're coming out of the school and you're you can only make a right turn only, you go to the intersection, you have to go straight, right, or left. You can't make a U-turn to come back to the south. So you're restricting.
But so what? Yeah.
No, I'm just saying this is it. You're restricting south movement. So if you're a person who wants to go south, you either need to go left, right, or straight, find a place to turn around, or you find a road which parallels to come back and go back the way you want. So that's all you're making those people just travel more. If you restrict left turns into the school, then you have to make a right turn into the school. You're doing kind of the same thing. You're making people travel other ways so that you're coming north on Southeast Street to turn right. So if you're coming from the north, you have to come down to Main Street, maybe make a right, go down to Dickinson, make a left onto College Street, make a left onto Southeast Street, and then a right to the school.
Yeah, but I mean, it's,
No, that's it. You're just making people make longer movements. Is all you're doing is you do that. That's not what it does.
but would that be safer for pedestrian? I mean, wouldn't that alleviate a lot of what we're talking about? And I guess the other point there is for the schools, right? It's regional, so people are going to be coming, they would plan their trip before they left their house. What are the pros and cons of doing nothing?
It just makes your trip to the school longer, the trip out of the school longer. That's the con. They're really, you do reduce those conflicts of left and right turns. Those are the two pros. Con is just making people travel longer to do it.
Yeah.
And you're also transferring the danger points, right? So you're moving the danger from in front of the school now to the non-main roads. So if everybody's coming down Dickinson, those are tight streets with people coming in out of cars, getting into cars. You potentially going to be causing people U-turning, whatever, as they're going, don't want to go all the way around. There's a lot of, you're transferring the pain from one place to another in some respects.
Yeah, I mean, having taken my kids back and forth to a school that didn't allow that to happen, the PVC ICS, you just figure it out.
And then you have a lot of non-compliant drivers as well. So they're going to make risky maneuvers to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And you've got two schools worth of people doing that.
Yeah.
Because it just seems safer for, pedestrians.
Tracy? Okay, Mark.
Just one thing. It seems like quick Google search at UMass, we have a lot of professors that look at visual impairment use of roundabouts. So it might be worth reaching out to those too. And one thing as well, I mean, I know it's not talked about in this plan, obviously it's a very high level plan, but you can signalize roundabouts. I mean, you can make someone stop at a roundabout. You can put a red light there. That's not something that's, just as a European, we put signals at roundabouts and we stop
When you're
people.
having like these potential backup
When
issues,
there's
like we're
potential backup
anticipating.
issues, there is also certain, roundabouts can only take certain level of traffic. You see already at the Damon Road and Route 9 there, they've started that sort of system, but there's also, pedestrian, you have to hit the button and then it'll work. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of the word, but anyway. Yeah, yeah, well, not an
Or
RFP,
PHP.
but an actual red light.
They're the pedestrian hybrid beacons.
Yeah.
They have them at a number of places on Damon.
Yeah, on Route 9 too, in front of the courthouse after the kid got run over. So there are ways to stop people.
Tracy?
Please look into that.
Yeah, so I mean, I appreciated Melody summarizing the benefits of roundabouts. I mean, and we're fortunate in Amherst that we do have a number of pretty great roundabouts, I think. Some of them are ideal, but a number of them are working great, and they do have RFBs, and they do have islands, and they do have crosswalks, put where you're supposed to put them. I mean, again, I think, one of the challenges is just that this is a particularly vulnerable population. And some of the best practices that I've seen, even on national Safe Routes to School websites, will say that with younger children, that given the unpredictability of their behaviors and for safety, you really should have a crossing guard if you're going to have a roundabout or other major intersections near the school. So I just raise that up. If there are some, there are some examples. I went online. I know Kittleson, for example, they have a big national database of roundabouts, and they do have some schools listed there, but it'd be good to see on the ground, like what some of the other schools' experiences are with that, and what the issues they've had. I have a totally separate question than what we've been talking about here, but also I was curious about the that cut through that exists right now from Route 9, from Belchertown Road coming westbound, that goes over to Southeast Street. Is that something that needs to be there if you're going to have the 4 roundabouts, or can that traffic be required to go through the roundabout at Southeast Street and Route 9? There are some safety issues with that right now, and people had mentioned them at the council meeting and so on. So, my perspective is I would love to see that go away as a through route for motor vehicle traffic. And if there is a roundabout at Route 9 and Southeast Street, have the vehicles go through there.
Melody.
So when we looked at the College Street roundabout, we tried to analyze it without that cut through or bypass lane that is Belchertown. And it doesn't work quite well. So that roundabout would actually need a westbound right bypass lane. And you could put that, but it would impact the bank that's on that corner. And it would impact all the access that has driveways off of Belchertown Road currently. They would have to be rerouted to College Street as well. So long story short, you need a right turn bypass lane for that roundabout at College Street to work. And so, sorry, Guilford.
Yeah, could you just
Put the
do a
drawing
land
back up.
swap with the bank though? And take the front parking lot that they have there and give them the old road? So you still have a bypass lane, but it's,
Yes. Wait until she puts the map up.
sorry.
Sorry, what did you want me to share?
You put either the drawing up you had up earlier.
Yes.
Or
Can you see? No, I haven't hit share yet. Sorry.
there it is. So the the Belchertown Road's little slip on the right that either needs to stay there or you need to put that down at the intersection. So putting it down at the intersection means you need to take out the parking in the bank. And then you have to accommodate the two buildings that are on Belchertown Road, three buildings on Belchertown Road that have driveways, which is the bank and then the two other buildings. So it just makes the project bigger. It can be done. It just makes the project bigger and more costly to do it that way. Leaving the Belchertown Road left slip accommodates what you need for the roundabout without having to take anything else or spend any more money. But
And also in the analysis, when you put the right turn bypass at the College Street roundabout, the way traffic ends up working out and people having to yield to each other, this southbound queue backs up past, up to the South School entrance. So it creates a snowball effect where then your queues are backing up into this roundabout and then this becomes obsolete. And so that's why the Belchertown stayed where it is.
So we have about 20 minutes left, and I think we need to do a little bit on process. Is your thought that we need to, you need some time to think about some of the issues that have been raised, including pedestrian and bicycles involvement, and come back to us with a sort of response in some fashion, either an alternate plan or refinements of this plan that illustrate how to deal with that?
what we really need to do, or what we should probably do first, is if you think this is not anything you want to proceed with, then we need to go back and start all over again. If you think this is something we want to do, then we can come up with some refinements and then move it forward a little more. But really, we're at the, if this is a no starter right out of the gate, or if you want us to look at taking some of the common, those are things we need to know now so we can start working on alternatives to this. But if this is kind of the way you want to go, you're okay with going this way, then we just need to refine some things. And then we can give you some more information about how we would accommodate the pedestrians and so forth.
Yeah, Rupert?
I was wondering if I could ask a question about the crossing to see, because I'm just a layman in this stuff, but I'm curious. It seems to me like if you want to have a dedicated crosswalk that stops traffic, you would want to have it with the longest lane possible so that your stopped traffic didn't back up into another intersection. So my question is, would it make sense, and have you looked at putting a crosswalk smack midway between the two middle roundabouts? Does my question make sense?
It does. And we probably would not do that. The problem, the students who come from the north, they're going to want to enter the school as soon as they can. So they're going to enter the school driveway at the north. The students coming from the south are going to come up and enter the school from the south. No one's really going to want to walk that extra distance to the center and come in. So we would put it at those those entries.
Thank you.
Myra?
Could you, Guilford, could you explain what would be the benefit of taking part of the common?
So if we take part of the common, then you could start thinking about multi-lane roads, although you're going to have a very short queuing area in the north intersection, regardless of if you take it or not. But you could have a little more queuing at the south entrance. So you could put a left turn lane for buses to turn in and keep it more of a conventional intersection if you wanted to. Those are the two benefits of doing that. You can't put a turn lane on Southeast Street now because it's too narrow. we'd have to take some of the green space in the common.
So if you did that, would it be better or easier or more difficult for pedestrians, particularly those with disabilities, to get across?
It would give you the opportunity to definitely have a light at the south entrance. If you want to have a light at the south entrance, possibly give you the benefit to keep the light or improve the light at College Street, but we would have to look at that as well. You want to jump in, Melody?
I haven't thought enough about that. Sorry.
Margaret? Oh, okay. Kim? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So I'd like to speak to process for the sake of the committee, for the sake of the folks gathered here, Guilford and everyone, and see what the rest of my committee members think. I don't like the idea of starting all over. I like the idea of trying to reduce this at least to 3 instead of 4. So I'm interested in the peanut. I'm not against taking the common if it would address that goal, and also would perhaps has to address questions about pedestrian and bike safety. So I would like something to the effect of, we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. We'd like you to continue along these lines, but could you present us with what it would look like with a peanut, to try and consolidate at least the north entrance and exit? And if you could also address some of the real concerns about pedestrians and bikes and how they're going to maneuver this, and what we can do either through taking use of the common or other strategies to make this as safe as possible. And also in recognition of there's going to be an affordable housing project built here in the very near future. As Guilford mentioned, there's going to be, we assume, kids. There's also going to be another project on Belchertown Road to the south. And so my initial thought process-wise is that you continue along these lines, but I'd like to see an option that reduces from 4 to 3, and one that addresses issues of safety and bikes.
Don't know that we can, we need to discuss that at a subsequent meeting. I don't think that's one, because we were saying we're not trying to solve the problem today. We're trying to understand the complexity of the problem and what our options might be. But
so Andy, is
choosing an option
is the answer to Guilford's question that we have obviously some work we need to do, and then we can get back to him as to whether this, right? Okay.
I think so, and I
Fine.
think we need to give the other committees the opportunity to provide any input to us before we make a decision. Mara.
Just quickly, the next proposal that you make, could you put potentially the sidewalks and the cross points where you could put RFPs so that people can see the whole picture and how it all integrates? Because if we think of it as a traffic problem, it is one thing. If you think of it as a gestalt that has to involve people walking, people riding bikes, people driving cars, it would be more understandable. And I don't know how it's going to be less anxiety producing, but it's really quite the problem to solve.
Bob?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the best of signs or flashing lights doesn't stop some people. I've witnessed someone go past a school bus that was stopped, had its red lights flashing, and they just zoomed on by. They didn't even slow down. They didn't even look at it. So I think you got to recognize that people, especially in the morning, are going to be focused on getting to work or getting to wherever they're going, and half awake, and they're just not gonna pay attention to, to most signs. Maybe red lights they would stop at, but it's a lot of, I've seen also, with the crosswalks that are marked but don't have the beacons on them, people ignore pedestrians in them all the time. I mean, I slow down, I stop, and then people are like, why are you stopping? So just bear that in mind.
Tracy?
So to Counselor Heckner's point, as well as what Marcus Smith had brought up earlier, I mean, I would be interested in hearing if there is a way to have a, an option where you do have like a dedicated like red light or something, like near the roundabouts or somewhere along this corridor that would guarantee that vehicles are stopping and not just yielding. I mean, I don't think that it would be something that would be activated very often, but for those like peak times when students are traveling to and from the school, which also coincides, in part when people are commuting a lot to work, it would be really critical, just for the students' access and safety to be able to have that option and know that the traffic there is stopped. Similar to what's there now, where there is a dedicated pedestrian cycle. So, I mean, if there are models of that have been done elsewhere at schools, it'd be great to see if that might be feasible for this. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, this isn't going to work. For a little light reading, I would refer people to the National Cooperative Highway Research Program Guide for Roundabouts. It's from 2023 and includes a lot on child act in pedestrian and everybody's access across roundabouts, through roundabouts, whatever. But it's only 450 pages. So if you want something to do tonight, that'd be great.
I have shared those resources before, including when the TAC evaluated the redesign of the Pomeroy Village intersection. I mean, there is a lot of research out there, including for best practices for roundabout for visually impaired people. I'd be happy to share those resources again.
Chris?
Yeah, and just for Rupert, since you're in the room, I mean, I would just add that I think above and beyond the ability for an older child, a 10-year-old or something, to be able to stop traffic by pushing a button, I think that those crossing guards are crucial. And regardless of what configuration occurs, just making sure that we've got that layered into the school budget, again, regardless of what happens. I'm speaking as somebody who relied on crossing guards, the Wildwood crossing guard over on East Pleasant and Strong for a very long time, for peace of mind that my child was getting there safely. I think that that's something on the school side that I just would like you to understand that message leaving this meeting.
So, George?
So maybe what you're thinking too, Andy, and if not, I'll shut up, but it's just a process question. We will meet again on December 19th, correct? This committee.
Yes, there may not be a sufficient time for the other two committees to provide input to us, but we were going to, at least amongst ourselves, talk about what we heard today and see if we can put some order to it. And the other thing that we had planned to do for that day is to have the town communications director work with us on how we do community engagement on this particular problem.
Is there anything that you or any of the members of the committee would ask be submitted, if possible, by either Guilford or ADM or by the other committees? Or I know the time is short. Is there anything that they could possibly provide us that would help us in our discussion, or is perhaps that something that we'll do later?
Well, it seems to me that where we're at, and I'm looking at Guilford as I say this, because he'll nod or shake his head or something. But yeah, he's doing both. But I think that he's looking for guidance from us, and you know, at this point, we sort of have to kind of collectively come to what parameters we want to give so that they can work with those parameters and come up with a new plan.
Correct.
Which would mean that we shouldn't make a decision tonight or even a week from today, because we are getting into the holiday season. I think we need to let the other committees have the opportunity to provide input, and they can't do that without an opportunity to do what we're talking about, which is, so what did we hear on the 12th, and what do we think are the changes that we would want to see addressed, and see if we can collectively put that together in some fashion. I think that that would be my sense of it. So with that said, we're getting towards 6:30, and we did promise that we would cede the room to another committee at that point, plus everybody's exhausted and hungry by now anyway. Is there anything else that anybody in the room wants to raise or ask about right now before we go? Myra?
I just wanted to say thank you for doing this. I think this was helpful, and I hope you continue to involve all of the committees as you proceed forward.
And I want to thank all of you from the other two committees for joining us today and doing this as a combined meeting. I think that, you know, Guilford and Paul had pointed out that this is the most efficient and effective way to proceed with what this problem is, rather than having them separately go to 3 different committees and then try and put it together. So thank you all for having accommodated us tonight and by being here. With that said,
I move to adjourn.
Second. Okay.
I vote aye.
We actually have to each committee has to go through its process of adjourning according to whatever its rules are. Just so you know, the council has to adjourn by motion, and there's been a motion that's made and seconded. So, Jennifer, you want to vote?
Yes.
Bob?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So I'm declaring our committee adjourned, and I'll turn it to Tracy as to what your process is for adjourning.
Thank you.
You don't require a vote. And DAAC, Myra, have you adjourned?
We have not. Can I get a motion to adjourn, Elise? I need a second for adjourning the DAAC.
I second.
Okay, all not in favor of adjourning, say aye. All right, we're adjourned.
Okay, thank you all very much. I appreciate everyone's being here.
Thank you.